Everybody, and welcome to this America Saves Twitter chat. I'm Bob Birch. I'll be your host today as we talk about savings in all kinds of different ways for America Saves Week. This is a Google Hangout that accompanies a Twitter chat that's going on live right now, and you can participate in that by going to Twitter and using the hashtag EXASChat. That's EXASChat. I hope you follow along on Twitter as we have this conversation. We have a great panel of experts for you here to talk about some savings tips for America Saves Week, and I'd like them to introduce themselves now. Erica, why don't we start with you?
Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Erica Toby. I am an extension specialist with Michigan State University Extension in the areas of financial and homeownership education. We have staff that do money management, home ownership education, as well as foreclosure counseling services. And then I also have a partial appointment with the Department of Human Development and Family Studies, teaching a personal finance course for undergraduate students. Welcome everyone.
Thanks, Erica. And Laura?
Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Hendricks. I'm with the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture Cooperative Extension Service. I'm an assistant professor in family and consumer economics.
Thanks, Laura. Lindsay, could you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody, and happy America Saves Week. My name is Lindsay Ferguson. I am the local campaign coordinator for America Saves, and America Saves is a national social marketing campaign that encourages and promotes savings and better saving habits.
Thanks, Lindsay. And Ricky?
Hello, my name is Ricky McWilliams. I am currently a regional specialized agent with the University of Florida Cooperative Extension in the Panhandle of Florida, specializing in financial literacy and health and wellness, as well as in the process of transitioning to a stay-at-home mom. So I'm also a key spouse and work with my husband's unit and with the United States Air Force.
Thanks, Ricky. And monitoring Twitter for us today and making that link between our Hangout and what's happening on Twitter is Eric. Eric, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Eric Anderson. I'm a professor of Ag and Extension Education at the University of Idaho, coming to you from Moscow, Idaho.
Thanks, Eric. And so just a reminder again that this Hangout is in coordination with the chat on Twitter. You can participate in that chat by using the hashtag EXASChat, and that's for extension, EX, and America Saves, AS, and then chat, EXASChat. So easy way to join in the conversation and give some of your answers to the questions that we're going to be asking our panel of experts today. So let's go ahead and get started with some tips on saving. I think a lot of us have heard, that we should save, but we might not really know what the actual benefits are. So, Ricky, let's start with you. What are some of the benefits of saving money?
Some of the benefits of saving money start with reducing stress. So we all know that stress is going to affect our daily mood. It's going to affect some long-term health behaviors. It's going to affect a lot of things. So if you start with small things like saving your change, just making those small changes and saving a little bit can actually make you feel better and improve your mood. And by improving your mood, you've improved your relationships and those people that are around you and helping them improve their mood as well.
I like that one a lot. I could use a better mood some days. Lindsay, are there other benefits?
Yeah, I think the benefits of savings kind of can be endless, but some of the biggest ones is, you are really well prepared for some of life's unexpected emergencies, right? For example, today driving home, I felt like there was no AC coming out of my vents, and I live in Florida. So knowing that I have that little safety net when I go to the repair shop, and hopefully it's not too bad, it's nice to have that cushion to know that, you can handle life's unexpected emergencies financially, and then put yourself in a better position so you're not taking on more debt or putting yourself in kind of a deeper hole, so to speak.
Laura, I think too that one of the benefits might be that you know, some more freedom, just in terms of the choices that you have and those kinds of things. Is that something that people find a benefit from having good savings?
Absolutely. And really the bottom line with saving is for financial security and to build wealth. And who doesn't want to build wealth, right? So financial security over the long term, because if you don't have savings, then one little crisis can send you over the edge financially. And in the long term, because if you want to have a secure retirement, if you want to go on your dream vacation, so that's kind of the fun aspect, it's necessary to have some money in savings.
Erica, is there anything we're forgetting? We left you till last, so there might not be meat on the bone here, but
that's okay. I mean, I think one of the things, it's great for recovery, it's great for those emergencies, but in a real positive spin on this, it's also great for saving for goals. So if you can think about what can you do for fun, what might be the things that you can look forward to. You know, we always want to reduce stress, but the flip side of reduce stress is also think about the fun things in our life. And if you could start to identify what those goals are, it may be as simple as saving a vacation, you know, for a vacation with the kids, or it may be something long-term, thinking about retirement. But really, you know, thinking about what are some of your life goals, and it really helps to identify those goals, because then you can really start to save for something that might be something that's fun and exciting in your life down the road.
Thanks, Erica. Eric, I don't know if our folks on the Tweet Up have had a chance to weigh in, but what are some of the folks saying on the Twitter chat?
Well, they certainly have weighed in, and with several answers that have mirrored some of the comments that the other panelists have made. There were several comments related to taking care or being prepared for emergencies, and Brittany Hobner mentioned about having the cash to deal with things when something bad happens, which was mentioned by the panel. We have the Air Force Federal Credit Union participating, and they mentioned being ready for life's what-ifs. And then also about the idea of having goals to work towards. Jamie Calamaridis, and I probably butchered her name, but said having the money will enable you to do things like open a business or attend school or buy a home. So that's sort of the bigger goals in our lives.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks for everybody who's participating on Twitter. That's great reaction that we're getting there. And once again, if you're watching the Hangout and you want to jump on Twitter, the hashtag is EXASChat. So we talked about all the benefits. Lindsay, are there any disadvantages to saving?
I don't think there's any disadvantages to saving. I mean, we laid out a lot of great advantages. You know, it may be a hard thing to start, so I don't think that's a disadvantage, but that can kind of be a little road bump for somebody. But if you know, there's tons and tons of resources of starting small out there at americasaves.org. We have some really great, like, 5 steps to wealth. You know, I know the extension has a network of really good resources just by starting small. You know, putting away whatever is in your change, in your pockets, in your change jar. So that, you know, there's no disadvantage, but I do know that sometimes it is kind of hard getting that kickstart and making those habits happen. So just think of it as starting out small, and you'll get there.
Laura, I think sometimes maybe some of us let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and we're always thinking like, well, sure, I could just throw money in a jar or somewhere, but you know, am I getting the most out of this? You know, how can I earn the most interest and those kinds of things on my savings? Is that something that you find that might keep people from just getting started? And is there anything you can tell us about maybe some ways that we can get the most out of them?
I think to follow up on something that Lindsay was saying about the possible disadvantage is it is sometimes hard to get started, and we all have a limited amount of money. So if there's a certain sum of money, a dollar amount that we've set aside for savings, that's money that you can't spend. So that's the challenge. But like Lindsay said, the benefits so much outweigh that challenge that it's really worth it to go ahead and save. And the other thing, Bob, that you just kind of alluded to about where to save, it can be a disadvantage too if you have something in a CD account, or if it's in some kind of investment fund, retirement account, that may not be money that's readily accessible to you when you need it. So that again, great benefits in the long term, but can kind of feel like a disadvantage in the short term. I think the trick is when you're thinking about where to save your money, if it's throwing change in a jar, matching your employment retirement account, whatever dollar amount they match, or just having something auto drafted out of your paycheck. I think the trick is to match the savings to your goal. So really, all of the resources that we have, time, money, work skills, the idea is to use all of our resources to create the life that we envision for ourselves. So that's where I would start with someone who's wondering where to save and what to save and how much to save. What do you envision for your future? What are your goals? And then to match that, that's our motivation to save, and that can help us determine where and how much we need to save as well.
Great.
Yeah, that's really good, Laura. Thanks for that. Erica, is there a certain point I should reach? You know, like, do I have to go through like an apprenticeship of saving before I like, oh well, I'm going to do CDs or bonds or something? Is there a certain level I should get to in my savings before I consider maybe putting money somewhere where I can't get to it?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things you always want to think about is you have your emergency fund. So that's kind of the foundation that we're really trying to build, and really make sure that you are putting enough money to be able to set aside so that you have, if for some reason something were to fall apart, or like Lindsay said, her air conditioning on the way to come here, you know, was going out. And so being able to have that emergency fund to be able to designate so that you have that money set aside. And so typically we say 3 to 6 months of emergency fund of your monthly expenses so that you can recover costs if necessary, or if unfortunately like a job loss were to happen or some kind of situation. The other thing to think about is that, you know, you really want to just start small. I mean, I think some of the things that sometimes we get typically hung up on is that we're not saving enough, or we're not, you know, we have to have so much money to be able to do that. And I tell my students all the time, like, even just getting into that habit of making it a habit and setting it aside. So if you don't have, you know, what we typically would recommend to be able to set aside, maybe work up to that so that you can feel like you can start to make an accomplishment. But yeah, to better answer your question, you know, experts will say 3 to 6 months of your monetary to be able to cover any type of monetary expenses that you may have.
Ricky, are we forgetting anything, or do you have anything to add to the disadvantages of saving? Which there aren't any so far, right? We're good. Saving is good, everybody.
Savings is awesome, but just so that people are aware of the different ways that they can save money, whether it's a retirement account or an IRA or a savings account. So making sure you have money in different areas earmarked, maybe for different things, so that if an emergency does happen, that emergency money is in a savings account that you're not going to get penalized for taking money out of. So just making sure you know where your money is and setting it aside for different things is probably the most important thing, so that you don't have to pay money to get your money back out if a certain situation calls for it.
Eric, what are folks saying on Twitter about these disadvantages of savings? Did they find any? We didn't find a lot.
Not many. There was a resounding chorus echoing the group, saying there are no disadvantages. Saving money gives you advantages in life. Great comments related to that. About the only items that express some challenges, Miss Kim mentioned that you have to learn to make do without things that you want. So, you know, again, it's a challenge, maybe not necessarily a disadvantage. And then Jane McBee mentioned that, you know, when you start saving, there are things that come into play like taxes that can have an impact on the amounts in your savings. And so there are issues, but nobody mentioned real key disadvantages.
Great, thanks, Eric, and thanks to everybody on Twitter. And it's great to have you as part of this conversation, and you really are lending a lot to it. So keep those answers to these questions coming. So let's talk a little bit about savings and credit. I mean, every time I turn on the TV, maybe this says something about my TV viewing habits. There's some kind of commercial about credit and monitoring your credit and how important your credit rating is. Laura, can the act of savings or having savings affect your credit?
Well, certainly it can affect the way you use credit. If you save up for something and pay cash for it instead of getting a car loan or putting something on your credit card bill, that's fees and interest, finance charges that you won't have to pay. So in that way, saving leads to even more saving by not paying for the cost of credit.
Erica, that's what a lot of people are saving for. A down payment on a house or maybe a down payment on a car. So I obviously that might help. What kind of loan you would get for a house depending on how big your down payment is, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I think Laura just alluded to it, the more you can save, the less interest you're going to pay over time. So if you can pay a larger down payment, that really, when you compound that over a 15-year or 30-year loan, and right now loan rates are fairly good for fixed rate loans, but a few years ago they were much higher. So when you're thinking about how that money can compound over time, we talk about compounding for savings, and we talk about compounding for credit and the cost of credit and how much it's going to pay. And so the more money that you can actually accrue in a down payment, the less you're going to pay in interest, which is more money you're going to have in the long run. So all of that is going to really help you and benefit you as far as your financial situation.
Ricky, if I have a lot of credit card debt, should I be paying down that debt? Should I be putting money in savings? Should I be doing some kind of balancing act? How would I deal with that?
It's very difficult to save when you owe. So making sure that you have a handle on those credit cards, not using them anymore. Each individual is going to have a different situation, so maybe consolidating to one credit card that has the lowest interest rate. Again, it's going to be different for every individual, but making sure that you pay off those credit cards, because again, it's very difficult to save if you owe money. I always tell my first term airmen when I teach the class every month, cash is the cheapest way to buy a car. You're not going to get charged interest if you don't owe anybody anything. So making sure to pay off those high interest rates and get them consolidated to a lower interest rate is going to be your best bet. But again, it's making sure that you find that balancing act that's comfortable for you and comfortable for your situation, to make sure that you have enough money to pay your monthly bills and to figure out what your goals are and what your quality of life is that you want to have, and go from there.
Lindsay, is there anything else that maybe we missed about savings and how that affects your credit?
No, I think everything that was mentioned is wonderful, and I can't echo enough that when you do have those options of being able to go and get credit and use credit to your advantage as a benefit of having saving and kind of setting those goals, I think that makes the consumer process that much better, because you can go out and you get to pick what type of loan you want based on your good credit, because you have saving and you've used your credit wisely. So it makes the overall consumer experience better if you have a handle on your credit and saving.
And I just want to echo one thing really quick, because I think that oftentimes we don't always think about this, but paying down credit is a saving strategy, and we have to think about it as such, because if you don't, you're just paying more money down the road with that interest. So kind of readjusting our thinking on that is really important, and that truly is a saving strategy to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Great. And it does a bit of time and attention, but focusing on, if you use a credit card, like Lindsay said, if you've got that credit history and you've got a credit card that gives you benefits and perhaps pays you back or gives you points, using it for all your expenditures during the month, but being cognizant of paying it off every month so that you're not approaching those interest rates.
Mm-hmm. And Ricky, I've seen people do that really successfully. It does take a lot of self-control. So you're right. It has to be the right situation with the right person who's self-controlled enough to pay it off every month. But credit can be used as a benefit in that way too, and it's a savings.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, what's our Twitter conversation? How are they weighing in on this idea of credit and savings?
They are agreeing with the ideas that having savings does enable you to use your credit more wisely. Sasha Grabenstetter mentioned that, and I think this was brought up, that more and more lenders are looking for people who have some savings to put towards the down payments for larger items. And then the Gift of College tweeted that by having some savings, that gives you a little bit more flexibility, as has been mentioned. So you can use cash when it makes sense to use cash, and you can use credit wisely when it makes sense to do that as well.
Great, thanks, Eric, and thanks to everybody on Twitter. So we're sort of talking about a lot of different ways that savings can affect your financial life and your life in general, and it's all for America Saves Week. And our Hangout here, it goes along with that Twitter chat at #EXASChat. So thanks everybody for joining us. We've got some more things to talk about in terms of how savings can affect your financial life, and we're going to move on to insurance. And Erica, you, just the way the wheel tumbled, you get to talk about this one first. Can savings how can savings affect your insurance?
Well, I mean, anytime you have savings, you have more options. You know, anytime you have an emergency developed, a fund developed, and you have more available resources, you have more options, and insurance is no different. One of the things I can think of is really just having the ability to increase those, to increase your deductibles, to be able to lower your insurance premiums is really important. And so, so if you have more resources that may be available if something were to happen, you can increase your deductibles and be able to cover the costs that may incur. So I think that that's something that's really important, and sometimes we don't always think about, and that can lower the premiums that you're going to have to pay on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, however often you make those payments for your insurance.
So Ricky, are there other ways that savings can sort of help you cut your insurance costs?
Absolutely. I think if you've got a goal on your savings and you have some really good money habits that you've developed and you've picked up, more than likely your credit score is going to benefit from that. So with savings and an increase in your credit score, you can incur those decrease in insurance premiums that Erica was talking about. Again, in the classes that I teach with some of the airmen, they've brought in their policies in this little 6-point font of about 15 pages of awesomeness from the insurance companies. In the second to last paragraph, they have the option to check your credit score on an irregular basis. So if your credit score goes down and feel like you're a liability, there's the chance that your insurance premiums will go up. And again, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm going to increase my deductible so it'll decrease my monthly or my quarterly premiums. But then what happens if you don't have the savings to pay that deductible? You're going right back to having to use credit in a way that you may not have anticipated.
Lindsay, I'm thinking, if I'm going to save some money on my insurance, because I have savings, maybe I've increased my deductible, maybe that's a good place I could take that money and put it back into savings somehow. Is that, is that something that people consider, is like, if I can save a little bit on this bill, if I can reduce this bill, maybe I can put that back into savings?
Most definitely, and that's something that we really encourage, especially during opportunities like America Saves Week, where you can really assess your savings, is maybe because you have done a good job of setting a goal and making those plans with your savings that you are accomplishing those goals, maybe now is the time to say, okay, well, let's change that. With this extra $100 I have, maybe I should start adding this to my emergency fund, or do a little increase in the percent that's going out for my retirement of my overall paycheck. So most definitely, if you have, that's something that's really, to be a successful saver, you constantly are going to have to be assessing your savings goals. because hopefully you'll accomplish them, right? So you need to take the time to assess it and maybe up your percentage a little bit more or pay down another debt. So yes, that's a great way to assess that situation.
Laura, I mean, it's maybe if you're really successful at savings, more successful than I've been so far, maybe you could drop some things or change the kinds of insurance that you have that might save you money that way.
That's a possibility. An emergency savings fund and insurance are both safety nets. So probably the bigger emergency savings fund safety net that you have, the smaller insurance safety net that you would need, which certainly applies usually if you have the higher deductible, you have a lower monthly premium, like Erica was saying. So if you have a big emergency savings fund, you can afford the higher deductible and save money on the premium. The other thing is about relying more on an emergency savings fund instead of that lower deductible, higher monthly premium. With an emergency savings fund, you have a lot more flexibility with what you can do with that money. So that money can actually be in some kind of savings venue that is earning interest, whereas the money that you would be paying for monthly insurance premiums would not ever have that possibility of earning interest. And then the one other thing that I might say about insurance is it's really easy just to buy a policy and have it forever and not think about it. And certainly there are some benefits to having some history with a company and knowing an agent. But also we typically recommend that every maybe 2 or 3 years you check your insurance policies and see if you're getting the best deal for your money. And it's important to remember that to compare apples and apples and not apples and oranges. And so as I think it was Ricky who pointed out earlier, to read the fine print in that insurance contract so that you know if you're going with a lower rate insurance company that you're still getting the same coverage. But it is a good idea to compare every few years, and we recommend comparing it at least about 3 places before making your final decision.
Great, thanks, Laura. Eric, how's the Twitter sphere getting along?
They are in tune with the comments from our panel today very well, and have just echoed some of the very same sentiment. Jane McBee suggests, as was mentioned, to use the savings via larger deductibles if needed, and that way, rather than paying upfront for larger premiums, and likely will come out with savings in the process. Sasha Gravenstetter mentioned she was a former insurance agent, and she suggested using the emergency funds to help out with insurance claims. To help keep down costs of insurance, keep premiums lower, and the like. And Jerry Butchko mentioned that savings can be viewed as a form of self-insurance with the emergency fund, and that is an empowering process. Others had expressed that you don't want to self-insure for large items like homes, but you can self-insure for smaller things, for sure.
Great feedback from Twitter. Again, you can join the conversation by using the hashtag EXASChat. So I'm super excited about this next question, Ricky, because it says, can you earn free money for saving? If so, how much? Because free money sounds like the best 2 words anybody has said to me today, anyway.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. Free money. It's great to be able to, those folks that are involved with their HR that have a job that will contribute to their retirement savings plan, to talk with someone in their HR department to make sure that they're contributing the maximum amount, we will match them. So if you contribute 5% to your retirement account and your company will match at 2.5% or up to 5%, that's a great idea. So it's free money. You're not having to spend any money. You're saving money and making money on that, and they're giving you free money. So it's silly not to do it. Sometimes it's really good if you actually get a raise to put that money back into a savings plan of some sort or a retirement account, or at that point, maybe make the maximum contributions to make sure your employer will match those rates. But again, any way that you can earn free money through your employer, it's great to go and talk to HR. So HR is not always bad. It's not always bad to walk in the door and ask to speak with someone. And in some of our cases, you don't actually have to walk in the door and speak to anyone. You just send them an email, or you chat with them on Twitter, or pick up the telephone. So a lot of times it's a lot easier than we think. It does take a few minutes out of our day, and maybe we do have to fill out a form or two. But there is free money out there from our employers, and that's probably the best place to start. But I do want to tell you that there is free money out there in the next 15 weeks for those people that save, if they want to take a money challenge that I'll tell you about at the end of this chat.
All right, definitely stay tuned for that, and we'll talk about that. Lindsay, are there other ways? Is it just retirement savings that have employers matches? Are there other ways besides retirement that?
I mean, just the beauty of compound interest. I know we talked about it earlier today, but you know, the longer you are putting money into some type of interest-bearing account, you do have the benefit of compound interest on your time, but you just have to remember that it takes time to kind of reap the full benefits of that. But if you are making it automatic, it'll be out of sight, out of mind, and then one day you'll wake up with, you know, triple your money or whatever the case may be, depending on interest rates and things. And then, of course, we mentioned also earlier, you know, if you're using your credit wisely, you know, there's some opportunities where you can get reward points and cash back sometimes. But again, that goes back to being responsible and using your credit wisely and making sure that you are paying off those reward accounts to get those rewards like cash back or free trips or whatever. And then just kind of a shameless plug, during tax season, there is a great promotion called Save Your Refund. So if you save a portion of your refund through Form 8888, at least $50, you can enter a sweepstakes to win lots of cash prizes. And it's free, and it's just kind of a reward for saving money. So that's a great way that you can get money for saving. If you're interested, go to saveyourrefund.com. It's supported by America Saves, and it's just another great way to save at tax time and make that automatic deposit into your savings account once you get your refund.
Wow, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that, Lindsay. Laura, there's some other tax ways. I mean, there's some tax breaks for different kinds of savings, aren't there?
Sure, and I was just thinking actually about adjusted gross income, and that's the amount of income that you're taxed on at income tax payment time at the end of the year, which we are in right now, tax season. And the way that benefits is oftentimes certain things like your employer-provided retirement funds, or if you have a flexible medical spending account or cafeteria plan, many times that money can come out pre-tax. So that money comes out, and then the amount of total adjusted gross income at the end of the year is less because that money was taken out pre-tax. And so then the amount of tax that you pay from the tax table, you're in a lower income bracket. So that can actually save consumers money on taxes by doing those things pre-tax. So that's one other way. And then there are some tax benefits as well for putting money into a retirement plan, or if you don't have an employer-provided retirement plan, into an IRA.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Erica, there's got to be more free money on the table somewhere.
Well, actually, one other thought I had, you had a lot of great suggestions already, but one other thought that I had is that if you are thinking about putting money into some kind of a college savings plans for your kids, sometimes some states actually do tax deductions as well. So that's another opportunity, another way that you can essentially get free money or have some kind of a deduction on your taxes. So in the state of Michigan, if you participate with some type of a college savings plan, either through our prepaid plan or a 529 plan, we actually have a $10,000 deduction if you participate in a Michigan plan. So again, it's state-by-state basis, but that's another opportunity for potential for free money.
Great, thanks, Erica. How are the folks on Twitter reacting to free money, Eric? They're probably all signing up, right? Where send my check to?
Well, they have shared many of the same great suggestions that we've heard already. Several mentioned, tweeted about the benefits of compound interest over time. One person mentioned, Jane McBee mentioned that there are banks and sometimes credit unions have incentives for opening certain types of accounts, and that they can give you rewards for doing those. And then there was a great tweet from Sasha Grabenstetter, I thought, that is geared towards parents with children or those who teach children, and she says the idea of free money could be a great suggestion for working with little children who are just learning about saving, and to help get them excited like we got excited about the topic.
Great, thanks, Eric. Lindsay, when we were talking about benefits of savings, we talked a little bit about just freedom and choices, and I just want to talk about some of those things that you can do with savings, because until I really thought about it and saw these questions, I didn't really think about how much it really can restrict your freedom when you have opportunities if you don't have those adequate savings. So what are some of those things that we can do when we do have adequate savings?
I mean, I think that we have, somebody mentioned it earlier about, kind of that feeling of being financially healthy. Like that's something that when you have savings, you have the freedom of knowing that you don't have that financial stress. We just did a study, and those who actually have a savings goal across the board, like some type of plan across the board, are able to meet those savings goals, know their net worth, have less consumer debt. So kind of it's endless when you do have those options and have savings under your belt, that you kind of have that confidence. Is that a good, the overall confidence in your financial, health and wealth, having the stable thing of having a savings and having access to your savings.
Laura, I was just thinking about just sort of the flexibility of being able to move somewhere. If you rent and you need a deposit, and can you come up with a deposit for a new place to live to upgrade your home? That kind of flexibility, really, you rely on savings for a lot of that stuff.
That's true. It does give consumers more options. If we think about anything from as small as, like you were, from as small as maybe deciding where to go on vacation. If you have money saved, that's probably going to give you more options than if you're just relying on what you can afford to spend out of your pocket to take off on a trip. And then if we think about bigger things like housing decisions, if you have money saved up for down payment on a house, that gives you the option of saving and investing in some real estate instead of paying rent every month. And then the idea of saving for college. People who save for college have more options on where they go. If they don't have savings for college, they might be bound in their college decisions to those that are the most economically priced. So you're right, it does open up a lot of freedom of choice for people who have more savings.
Erica, we've talked a lot about some of the things that we could do for ourselves, but if you are healthy financially, if you have those savings, you can also help others.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one beauty, is that you do have, like Laura was saying, you have options. And so if there is an organization that you feel very fondly about, you can gift some money, some of the savings or some of the money that you have to those organizations. And one of the nice things is that sometimes employers will also match those contributions. So if you do find an organization that you would like to provide funds to, you can also contact your HR department and see if that's something where they can give a matching gift as well. And so you're not only giving some of your money, but you're also designating some of your employer money as well, which is really nice. So I think anytime that you can save, it just gives you more options. You have more flexibility, and you're more empowered. And I think you can look at that from a philanthropic voice, or you can look at that just for your own financial stability as well.
Ricky, what have we missed in things that we can do with our savings?
If you've had the opportunity to save and you've made some good saving decisions and some good money habits, you can find yourself in a situation like I'm in where I've had a child and decided that I'm going to take a few months to spend with my child instead of spending that on daycare at this point. So I'm going to take a little break from working out of the home, and some savings and some planning on my part and my husband's part has allowed that to happen. So it just kind of depends on everyone's individual story and their individual goals. I heard a quote earlier this morning that a wish is just a wish without a goal. So when you set that goal and you make that goal and you do the work to reach it, it becomes reality. And the success and the way that you feel when you've reached that goal is amazing.
Great, thanks, Ricky. Eric, what are people on Twitter doing with all this money that they're going to save during America Saves Week?
They are being very thoughtful about what they're going to do with the money they have in savings. And one of the benefits pointed out earlier and echoed by the AFCPE and by Olivia Wood in tweets was the ability just to have peace of mind and to breathe easier, because you are prepared for the emergencies that might come up, and you do have the options available to you that would not be there if you did not have the savings. Some talked about taking advantage of short-term needs or wants, which, again, those are options that open up. And then others mentioned, the Air Force Federal Credit Union mentioned the ability to accomplish the bigger goals, which was also mentioned, of buying cars, homes, going to college, taking care of our families, and doing so in a much less stressed environment.
Great, thanks. Those are all great, and boy, I'm really happy with and impressed with the feedback that we're getting on Twitter. Great job, everybody on there. Again, the hashtag is EXASChat, and if you're watching this recording, keep an eye out for that hashtag. We have these Twitter chats periodically, so I'm sure there's one coming up soon in the future. April, I think. I'm looking for my colleagues. Yeah, April, Eric? Sometime in April. Okay. Yes. We're looking at April.
I don't have the exact date in front of me.
I don't either, so we're ad-libbing. Sorry, folks. Okay. Back to the conversation about savings for America Saves Week here on our special hangout going along with the Twitter chat. Laura, we've been having fun imagining all the wonderful stuff that we could do with our savings, but unfortunately, we have to also to address the other side, in that what happens if we don't have savings? What kind of risks are we opening ourselves up to?
I think that's the big thing, is it really leaves people very financially vulnerable if they don't have some kind of savings, because one little financial crisis can send you over the edge. And if you're just barely making it month to month, paycheck to paycheck, and there's a medical expense or a car breaks down or something else, then you can end up in debt pretty quickly. And sometimes people don't have a lot of options and turn toward alternative lenders. In Arkansas, we have outlawed payday lenders, but that's not the case everywhere. And so people can really end up just getting deeper and deeper in the hole from a financial crisis if they don't have that safety net of savings.
Yeah, Erica, that I'm really what Laura said really resonates in terms of just how this could spiral. Just one little emergency expense, Ricky's air conditioning or something like that, can turn into a real struggle financially by following with these alternative lenders and kind of going down that path.
Yeah, in Michigan, we definitely saw that in the last few years with the recession and some of the situations, and for some families, difficulty making their mortgage payments or difficulty paying healthcare bills. We've seen a lot of correlation with foreclosure and financial distress with being able, having medical debt and things like that. So I think, anytime you can be prepared, have more options, you're just going to have more opportunity to be able to recover financially from disaster. And sometimes it kind of feels like a slippery slope where all of a sudden one emergency happens, and then sometimes it comes in that rule of three, and there's no, rule of hard knocks that actually says that that's supposed to happen, but sometimes you feel like, as soon as you start to go down that slide, you just kind of keep getting pushed further and further by different emergencies or financial challenges that may occur. So I think, anytime that you can have that savings built up, you can be able to recover. And these are things that we can't predict. Sometimes we can kind of see if there's maybe going to be a financial challenge coming around the corner, but a lot of times it's these things that we don't know what's going to happen that hit us the most. So, anytime that you can avoid paying unnecessary credit card debt or avoid paying excessive fees because maybe you have to go to some of these predatory lenders or payday lenders to be able to take an additional loan out. All of that is going to cost additional money, and and again, the effect on your credit history, your credit report. So as soon as that credit score starts going down, you're going to have to pay more for any new credit that you get access to. So all of this can really start to weigh people down, and again, like I said, it's that slippery slope that starts to happen and really gets people further and further in debt.
Ricky, when you're working with people, do they get this message, or is it one of these things where it's like, that's not going to happen to me, that's all right?
Well, and a lot of times, the first-term airmen that I work with, they understand the payday lenders, the alternative lenders may not be their best option, but sometimes the conversation goes to, I'll just ask grandma, or I'll ask a family member, or maybe I've got a friend that'll loan me some money. That's the fastest way sometimes to ruin a good friendship and to ruin a relationship. So you have to be very careful and very diligent about borrowing money from friends or family. You need to make sure that you set a goal for paying them back, that you have set dates and set amounts that you make those payments back to them. If there's going to be interest on that money, that needs to be discussed. So there are options to the alternative lenders, but again, I think this all goes back to something that's been mentioned on this Hangout, that if you've got good credit and you've been saving, you've been diligent about it, when emergencies happen and you do need to borrow some money and you do need access to credit, it's probably going to be more readily available and at a more realistic cost than if you've got lower credit and you're going to have to be paying more to borrow that money. So regardless of whether you're borrowing from alternative credit lenders or you're borrowing from friends, it's still very, very important that you're cognizant of making a goal and paying that back on time.
That's a great tip, Ricky. Thanks for that. Lindsay, is there anything that we forgot for those folks who haven't found a way to save yet? Why should they get started, and what are they avoiding?
I mean, I think everything has been highlighted and touched, but if you just keep in mind that financial freedom concept, I think that kind of helps and makes it a little bit more motivational. If you don't have savings yet and you're ready to start that next step and set those goals, think of it as being empowered and having those choices so that you don't get stuck kind of falling down that rabbit hole of, taking on more debt and not being able to repay your aunt and not being able to repay, your company who gave you the loan. So, I think if you just keep a positive spin on it and think that you're working towards your financial empowerment, that kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind if you haven't started that savings practice yet.
Thanks, Lindsay. What are folks saying on Twitter, Eric, about those things that happen to people if you don't have adequate savings?
Several have mentioned a lot of the same issues of how small emergencies could throw you into a real quagmire, and several mentioned the necessity to turn to credit to pay bills, or as has been mentioned, Ms. Kim mentioned about putting a strain on your family members, immediate and extended, when there's no safety cushion. Jamie Calamaridis mentioned that without the savings, you may have to work longer, delay your retirement, some of those things that you've been working so hard to achieve. And then Jane McBee mentioned an even larger issue that sometimes happens when people don't save, is that the burden actually gets shifted to the society at large. And we certainly see that with medical emergencies, when people are underinsured or uninsured, and those bills end up getting paid by the communities, states. So there are a lot of strains and stresses.
Thanks, Eric. All right, so I think we know what we need to do. Now, how do we do it, Erica? What are the strategies? How can people start saving?
Well, you know, I kind of ascribe by the philosophy of pay yourself first. So develop your budget and think about how much you want to be able to set aside for savings, and as soon as you get that check, automatically put it into an account. So either wherever you're going to be putting it, but make sure that it's automatic. You can even have it set up so that work with your financial institution and make sure that that's something that's done automatically. Typically, that's a free service that a lot of financial institutions will offer, or you can do it manually yourself. But as soon as that money gets into that account, make it a practice. Pay yourself first. Treat your savings like a bill, and make sure that you are setting aside and making it a monthly habit. And one of the things that I always tell people is, even if you don't think it's a big amount, start as soon as you can, and really just start to build up. And so maybe you identify a smaller amount, and then you work and you increase it every month just based on what your monthly budget is. But start small and try to increase it as you go. Can be a really, really helpful tip. The other thing is that if you do get a raise in your position, try to live within your salary that you were previously making, and then put the additional money into that savings. So a lot of times, we typically find new things to spend our money on, and we don't go back to what we were previously living within. And so, treat that raise like an extra boost in your savings as well, and try to live within your means at that point. So that's my big thing, is pay yourself first. Make it a habit.
Thanks, Erica. Ricky, having some of these incentives, and I know you wanted to talk about a challenge. I think this is a great place to talk about it. Having some of these incentives and these special weeks, like America Saves Week, those can be really effective as just kind of maybe just giving us a little boost in getting started saving.
Absolutely. During America Saves Week, Military Saves Week, we've actually started a 15-week challenge. So you can do the basic challenge, in which the next 15 weeks you would save $300. Or you can do the hardcore challenge, so you'll have saved $675 by the time that 15 weeks rolls around in June. It's a weekly of cash that you put into envelope or a jar or wherever you feel safe and comfortable with it at home. It's on the honor system, but again, it's just getting you into the mindset of making that savings a habit. You can make it automatic, so you can automatically have that money taken out of your paycheck if you get paid weekly, and put it into a savings account. It's going to be whatever's best for you. But starting those habits and making those habits something that you do every day or every month or every week are a really, really great idea. So to sign up for that challenge, it's free. If you go to bit.ly/15weekmoney, you will find the registration for that. It's only 6 questions, so it's super fast and free to sign up for. And we actually have some prizes at the end. So in June, we'll be awarding a $200, $150, and $100 gift certificate among those people that have completed either the basic or the hardcore challenge. So that's a great way to get free money and save money all at the same time. I am doing that challenge as well, but I save all our loose change. We don't really spend a lot of cash anymore, but we do save all of our loose change in a jar for our son. And then we do the extra paycheck. Every year we get 4 extra paychecks, so we put those 4 extra paychecks into a savings account as well. So those are just some things that we do as a family.
Lindsay, do you have some strategies you could share about how people can get started saving?
Yeah, I think, other than making it an automatic thing, really emphasize on setting those goals and making the goals attainable, so that once you accomplish it, even if it is just, okay, I want to have $500 in an emergency fund, you know, start off small, and then as soon as you hit that $500 mark, go back and reset another goal. Make that pledge to yourself on the same concept as Erica mentioned, pay yourself first and making it automatic. I can't emphasize that enough, because if you don't see it in your account, you're less likely to spend it. And start off small. I think that's just the best way to do it, just like any goal. I wish I could say I could lose 10 pounds in a week, but I'll start off with 1 pound a week, right?
If you figure that out, by the way, the 10 pounds in a week, make sure you email that to everybody. Yeah, Lindsay brought up different goals like weight loss. I mean, I think about those behavior change goals, Laura. A lot of times accountability can help with that. Can we use some kind of accountability in savings too?
I think so. I think all of those strategies that we apply to behavior change, and referring to, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, Small Steps to Health and Wealth looks at behavior change strategies from psychology that we can apply to making those financial behavior changes. So many of those things, empowering yourself, gaining a sense of your own self-control, thinking about what financial baggage you might have. It's the same thing that sometimes we may know that we need to eat less and exercise more. I think most people know they probably need to spend less and save more, but there's something that's challenging them, that some hurdle to try to get over with. So just like you might have an accountability partner on trying to eat a healthy diet, you can have accountability partners for trying to make good changes in behavior too. My easiest saving strategies are and I think Erica mentioned this, the pay yourself first. So I have my retirement savings, comes right out of my paycheck before I see it. I have money from my paycheck automatically deposited into a savings account before I even see it. And so if I don't see it, I'm less likely to spend it. So that's one way of overcoming that challenge. And then to take those small steps, like Lindsay mentioned, I think sometimes we overwhelm people when we say you need 3 months of income and enough to cover all of your expenses for 3 months in an emergency fund. So if you start with that $500 a month and then save $1,000 a month and then save a month, enough to cover a month of expenses, and reward yourself. So that's a strategy we can use. Reward yourself when you hit each of those goals. Now, be careful not to reward yourself with a shopping spree, but maybe carving out a little time to do something you love. If you have a hobby, play an instrument, go for a hike, cook a special dinner for yourself. So that's another strategy that works really well.
We're running a little bit short on time. Eric, has the question on Twitter been posed about their most important savings goal right now?
They're just working on it as we speak.
Okay. Because I'd be interested in hearing what's happening with that on Twitter. So maybe we'll come back to you, Eric, and see what people are saving towards. And I know we just kind of talked about strategies. So a lot of you gave your number one tip, maybe as part of that. But let's reiterate them. And I'll start with you, Ricky. Like, if there's one thing for people to keep in mind or to do in terms of getting started saving, what do you think your number one tip is or advice?
Start small.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay?
Make it automatic.
Perfect. Laura?
I am going to back up a little bit and say, for people who aren't saving yet, I usually tell them your number one goal should be to live within your income. So that's why I like people to look first if they're starting a savings plan.
Great. And Erica?
I would say don't wait. So don't wait until you have enough. Just figure out within your budget what you can do and start there.
Great.
And I don't know if this helps, Bob, but we like to call it a spending plan.
Yeah. Better than a budget. Better
than a budget, yes. Yes. Especially for those of us who might work with budgets at work. We don't like that word, but so Eric, let's come back to you. What are people saying on Twitter about their most important savings goal right now?
The consensus on the most important goals seem to be retirement, education, and of course the emergency savings plans and the emergency accounts. And everybody all says you still, as has been mentioned, you have to have a plan and set your goals, and that's the best way to start getting towards them.
Great. Thanks, Eric. We are out of time, but hey, this conversation goes on Twitter. Go to twitter.com, use the hashtag EXASChat, and answer some of the questions. Throw out your questions of your own about how you can be a better saver, and help us celebrate America Saves Week. I want to mention, please do go to Twitter and look at that. Look at that stream under the hashtag EXASChat. I would love you to find the evaluation link. We'll also be posting it as part of the archive of this Hangout on YouTube, so look for it there. There are some prizes available for a drawing if you complete the evaluation survey by 4:15 p.m. Eastern today. Then you can be entered into that. So go ahead. There's 4 $25 gift cards up for grabs. So check the Twitter stream to get that link for the evaluation survey, and give us your feedback on this Hangout and Twitter chat for America Saves Week. Thank you, everybody who's watching on the Hangout. Thanks to everybody for tweeting, and thanks especially to our panel. They did a fantastic job as always. Find a way to make a spending plan, live within your means, and put some money away and start saving today. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time in April sometime. And here I got to click on Ricky so she gets her savings award on there for the 15-week America Saves Challenge. So thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Bye.